And we are recording on Tuesday, October 21st, 2025 at 11:20 a.m. Eastern Time with Dr. Dale Comstock. Everybody knows him. You've been on here a fucking zillion times. Go in the description, grab both books, find his Instagram, find all of his socials, find all of his coaching, stem cells, just the whole nine yards. But as I, kind of always say, and seemingly more so in the last year with the Trump shooting and then the second Trump assassination attempt and then the healthcare CEO and then Charlie Kirk and the Tesla car bomb on New Year's and all this shit, you're kind of the Swiss Army knife. And there's like a they put like new elevators in my building. They got little like plasma screens on them. They just flip through the news. And I was going down to the gym yesterday and it was like bold like Louvre heist. And I was like, oh, that would be cool. And I was like, I bet if anyone knew how to do this, it'd be Dale. I was like, fuck it, I should text Dale. So again, the Swiss Army knife Dale. But yeah, so how would you do it? Just straight like how would you? I mean, you go in. I mean, sure you could go just the Delta Force way and shoot everyone in the face, but they didn't do that. How would you go about it? Just
Just like they did it, man. So sometimes, you know, the easiest, it's sometimes the easiest way is the least obvious, right? So
yeah.
everybody's looking at all the complexity of the security and sensors on the glass inside and the whatever, right? And the shadow, whatever the boxes are they're using. Um, but that's actually it, man. So use, for example, I'll pick on California. But New York, Chicago are all fucked up. And having been in San Francisco and working there for about 6 months, and watching all the smash and grabs, and being hired to be there, not even to prevent it, but just to be a scarecrow. And I was ineffective as a scarecrow. I was really there, without going into what companies hired me, but just put it this way, I think Fourth and Market Street, all those fucking high-end stores that got shut down. Okay, I worked right there, right? And my job was to do nothing but stand around and look scary. And I didn't realize it at first, right? It paid me quite a bit of money as and not even a deterrence, because what they were doing was they would let people rob, steal all kinds of stuff, and they had people floating around writing down about how much was stolen. They turn in the ticket, they give it to the insurance company, and the insurance company would have to pay out. And there was no proof of how much was actually stolen. They could always plus up the numbers. And then, if the insurance company said, well, what are you doing to mitigate the risk? They'd show them a picture of me, right? And so we got this guy, we got the best of the best of the best. And if he can't stop them, what are we supposed to do? And it's a big ass scam, is what it is. And so, those costs get passed on to the customers. But what's interesting is I'm sitting there literally watching, and my hands were tied. I'm actually standing with SFPD, and they couldn't do anything either, right? Guys coming in with hammers and just smashing the jewelry cases and just scooping everything up and stealing it. I mean, at their leisure, bagging and shit, and we just stood there like fucking just scarecrows, because we were not authorized to do anything. And they would just steal all day long. It was brazen, and it was not double O seven James Bond stuff like they're sneaking in and they
Yeah.
got it all faced out. It was just walking right up. Hey, how's it going? Smash, 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 scoop it all up, put it in their bag. You go, what? What are you gonna do about it, right? And they knew we couldn't do anything about it, and so at the Louvre, of course they're not that lackadaisical about it, but uh yeah, so somebody did their work. They went and checked it all out, and they go, you know what would stop me from coming through the window, on the second, third floor, whatever, and just come in here and smash the cases up and take all the shit out and go back out the window on a cherry picker on a ladder and freaking disappear, right? And that's exactly what they did. Not everything has to be super complicated, and the more simple it is, usually the easier it is to execute. And so that's what they did. So, you know. It wasn't genius. It was just somebody did the work, had a little bit of, and actually in that scenario, you didn't need to know a whole lot other than, the cases or whatever the items were stored in. What was it made out of? Probably polycarbonate glass, so it's bullet resistant, and it's probably encased pretty well. But nobody probably thought about the windows and somebody coming through the windows with a ladder. And so if I was going in and doing a reconnaissance, okay, or a site survey, and I went and I looked at the glass, go, yeah, it's polycarbonate glass. This is what it looks like. This is how big it is. This is how much stuff is in it. And then I'd walk around and go look at the windows and go, oh yeah, look at that. There's no bars on there. And even if there were bars on there, I can circumvent that as well. I just bring a Broco torch or a quickie saw and just cut right through the bars. All right, and remove those. It'd take me a couple seconds. Um, so short of not having polycarbonate glass on the windows, and even that wouldn't have stopped me. I mean, so the reality is when it comes to security, if somebody wants something bad enough, whether they want to get into a nuclear power plant or whether they want to get to your VIP or they want to get into the Louvre and steal something, if they want it bad enough, they're going to probably succeed. The goal should be to make it as hard as possible, right? So make the bad guys go through layers and layers and layers of security and mitigation to get to the objective. Make it so difficult the guy goes, you know what? That the time on target is not worth the attempt because as long as I'm there trying to penetrate each layer, the more likely I am to get compromised and get caught, right?
Yeah.
So he's going to look at efficiency, speed, and then the next part of it is I've done my reconnaissance. I'm looking at the objective. What's it going to take to get into the box? What's it going to take to remove those items? How am I going to carry them out? And then I know I'm going to go through the window. So I've already figured out how to defeat all the layers. And then I have to ask myself, okay, task organization, how many guys would it take to effectively do this, right? So as I understand it, they pull up in a truck with a ladder, hoist the ladder, climbed up the freaking truck, went through the window, and then went in and then attacked the housing or the case for the items. So I need a driver, right? There's one. I'm probably going to need another guy to hold the ladder, particularly if I'm climbing to the top and I've got to defeat the window. I don't know what level of effort that would have taken, but just, nonetheless, if you stand on top of a ladder, you're swinging shit, there's a chance the ladder will tip over, fall, you'll fall off it, right? So I need some stability. I need a guy to hold the ladder in place and probably a guy to hold my legs in place as I'm defeating the window. So I'm already calculating at least four guys to go in and do that effectively. The driver stays in the truck, the ladder holder is going to pull ground security. And then you got two guys that actually make entry, go in, and then as a team, they figure out, okay, how do we crack the box, right? If that's what it was the case, right? And so if it's polycarbonate glass, we've got a quickie saw in tow and we just cut that sucker open, or we got a thermal arc or some cutting torch with us and we just start cutting the shit open. So that takes a little bit of time. How much is a little bit of time? A couple minutes. But and maybe while I'm cutting my second, maybe he secures the door so nobody can get in, right? So he's locked any security, he's delayed security from getting in, right? So it buys me a little bit of time. But none of this is like, rocket science. I watched them do that in San Francisco. We see it doing in LA, and what they do is they use a mob tactic. They just overrun the place like
Hmm.
ants, right? Who are you gonna nab first, right? So a lot of people are gonna get away with shit. You might catch one or two, maybe if you're lucky, but you're still gonna suffer heavy losses as far as money and items are concerned. And so for them, I'm sure they looked at the payoff versus the risk, and it's like, yeah, it's worth it. I don't know what the amounts were they stole. I doubt that they would even publicize that, right? I don't think they want the public to know just how much they got away with. So
Well, I think they said what it
they
was.
did, but was that the real number, right? And
Got okay, yeah.
you know, and would you want to give out the real number? I don't know because if it's like a lot of money, you might embolden other people to do the same shit again, right? Like fuck, that was definitely worth the payoff,
Yeah.
or the risk, right? The payoff was. Um, but it's not hard, and you just got to do the work. And and that's what I do. It's not what I do for a living anymore, but I'm always analyzing security constructs, postures, procedures, wherever I go, whether it's the airport, a mall, a bank, I'm always assessing it, just passive, not because I want to do anything, but I'm just kind of always analyzing people's security procedures you know, and and when I start looking at it, if I start seeing flaws, I go, damn, who did this? And probably to the average Joe, it looks pretty formidable, but to a professional or someone that actually does the work, it's like, oh, this would be easy to do this. I'll give you a good one, man. So I think I may have mentioned this before in the show, and this really irritates the shit out of me, man, is the airports. Going through the airports, right? So what do, man? They go through all your shit, make your shoes, take your shoes off, or did take your make you take your shoes off, pull your laptop out, blah, 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 body search, they're searching grandma. Um, and so you think a terrorist is dumb enough now to try to come through, the TSA checkpoint, with stuff to take down an airplane or whatever? Hell no. But what it does is makes everybody feel comfortable. Oh my God, we got security. I'm safe. No, you're actually not safe. Terrorists are thinking way, way ahead. And that's what I do is I always think from the terrorist perspective. What would I do if? And that's the key to security. And most security consultants just don't have that knowledge or experience, right? They've never been there and done the real work, exposed to real terrorism. And so they're just guessing, or usually what they're trying to do is just remediate the last event, right? Like, oh, let's make sure that never happens again. Yeah, it's probably not going to happen again. What you should be doing is be thinking about, okay, if I was a terrorist, what would I do? And that starts with doing your own vulnerability assessment. Okay, look at the big picture, macro, micro, and finding your own vulnerabilities. And it's not just one vulnerability. What you have to look at is things like sets of vulnerabilities, because sometimes you've got to defeat two things at the same time to get to the objective. Taking out one might not be enough, but if you take out two, it could have a collateral effect on something else. Like, nuclear power plants, for example, right? So without getting into too much on those, but they have to have redundant power sources and generators, because if they do lose energy, because they need energy to run a nuclear power plant, right? And so if somebody cuts off their primary source of energy, you better have a secondary and a tertiary backup that are not interconnected. So
Yeah.
one goes out, it doesn't affect the whole food chain, right? And so there's got to be redundancy, and you have to do the what if scenario games, right? And in order to effectively do that, you have to understand the adversary capabilities. What could they potentially do, right? What would be the next paradigm? If I was a bad guy and I want to get maximum effect with minimal layout of effort, what would I do, right? And so, um, and that's where, in the space of security, um, we fall short. We're always one or two steps behind the bad guys. We're always trying to fix something they already broke, thinking they might break it again when they've already moved on to something else, right? The terrorists aren't dumb. They don't keep doing the same thing over and over unless it's working. Like
Yeah.
these idiots, they can't stop it and they're not doing anything about it. I'm just going to do it again. I've had some, I mean, let me just kind of throw this out there. Think about where we are today with the state of drones. And we've talked about drones, right, with John, and what's possible with drones now. I mean, it's crazy what's possible with drones. You don't even have to command control a drone anymore. All you have to do is program it with AI and just let it go do its thing,
Yeah.
right? And it can literally do its own thing when it's ready to do its own thing. And when the intel indicators and all the environmentals and everything, all the soon the moon and sun align, everything's perfect on its own, it just goes to work.
Yeah.
And then does whatever it is you programmed it to do based on what capacity or the capability you built into it, right? Now we've already talked about weaponizing drones. That's old hat. You could put everything on 'em. Bombs, hand grenades, guns. That's I mean, there's so much you could do with it, man. Somebody brought up yesterday. Imagine having a drone and it's got a tank on it, like napalm, right? And you fly it over something and you dump this napalm and ignite it at the same time. Now you've got a napalm delivery system, right? Holy shit. Now start thinking about airports, right? And start thinking about malls. We live in really scary times, and what we have effectively done as we have engineered our own extinction. I think it's we're at the end of times, man.
I
Honestly,
think,
that's what
dude,
I think we're
I've
at.
always thought, and I'm pretty sure this is you're probably gonna. I'm on so many lists, but I've always thought just an aerosolized bioweapon. Do you walk into Atlanta Hartsfield? Right? Yeah,
Yeah,
I lived outside of it's. It used to be the busiest airport in the world. I think now it's the second busiest. The first is Chicago O'Hare. I mean, you go into a, you don't even have to get through security. If you can get something near an HVAC, like, or I mean, how hard is it to get a job at the airport? There are McDonald's there.
yeah,
And you come in
oh,
with a little fucking vial,
yeah,
and and I saw another thing what you're saying about drones is there was like a red cell report like last year or something where it was like, yeah, predetermined without even operators, predetermined drones. If you just flew them over like some of like what are the giant air like Nellis or something.
yeah,
If you just went to something, you don't even have to get the B-2 bombers. Like those are well protected. If you just went and took a drone with a thermite grenade and just one and you hit them on go hit them on 100 C-17s or 100 C-5 Galaxies, just transports, just the backbones, the KC-135 Strato tank. Don't even go for the F-35s and the F-22s. Go on the things that fuel them and repair.
right,
Think about how much repair time they put into those fighter jets for each hour in the air. It's like 18 man hours. And that's just to like make sure the hydraulics are working. Can you imagine if you even got like a 10% accurate hit with thermite? That thing would be out of repair for who knows how long, and that might be all you need is for 24 hours if you just immediately fucked every long-term US the defense what's the quote, novices study strategy, experts study logistics. If you just
yeah,
knocked out like you know Air Force Mobility Command or the Defense Logistic Agency for 36 hours, that's not a long time unless you're
no,
looking for a 2 hour window to start, I don't know, fucking bombing Taiwan.
yeah.
I
No,
mean,
you could even, it's the same scenario is you take out one heavy lift aircraft on the runway getting ready to take off.
oh
Guess what?
God, fuck
And
the air. Yeah.
that thing burns up and you got carnage there. Now it's going to take a while to clean all that shit up. Again, you've done the same thing, right? You created a delay tactic. And once they clear it up, you take out the next one, right? And so now we've got a problem. It's like, how do we get these planes on station without getting droned by these autonomous drones? And so, and I know people are going, oh my God, should you really be saying all that stuff, and giving the bad guys ideas? I'm sorry, but the bad guys already have those
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah.
So they
If we're
already know
fucking
how to
yeah,
do
if
this.
we're shooting shit on the podcast, they've already wargamed this.
They already know this, man. And if they don't know it, they'll figure it out in a minute, for sure. And so, what really what purpose it would serve here is it enlightens people to be more aware and stop being sheeple, and stop depending on everybody else for the security and start taking responsibility for their own, start making smart decisions. And if you feel like, even as a collective, that this needs to be addressed because this is a real concern, now you can force those that have the power to make differences, to do their damn jobs, right? Right now, all they do is placate. Security is nothing more than placation. They're just placating people. Like, yeah, look at all the security stuff we got. We got dudes checking everything. Yeah, of course, in the front, but what did you do on the backside? What are you doing there to protect us, right? And I'm sure they've got, they do have security procedures on the backside, but ask yourself this question. Look at almost any airport. Okay, you can get into any airport on any runway, and that's all you got to do. Once you're in, I mean, you could come in you could wear a maintenance uniform, a mechanic's uniform, and nobody, and you can have your fake badge on it, it looks like everybody else's badge, and nobody's going to challenge you, right? And so now you've got literally infiltrators. I used the word Confederate on a podcast one time, right? And everybody's like, "What's the South got to do with this?" Yeah, so you're admitting they're a racist, and like what? So, again, so I got to be careful what I say because some people don't have the intellectual capacity to
Don't be,
look it up, right?
don't
What a
don't
Confederate
don't
is.
don't fucking even don't worry about those retards. Just
But anyway, so when I say Confederate, I'm talking about, you call it whatever you want, an infiltrator, right? So that's managed to get in, and like you said, maybe he's been hired for a while, or maybe now you've got people that have been, um, have been bribed to do things. I mean, imagine the temptation. If you're just some luggage dude down in the airport, throwing suitcases on board an airplane, and on the way home you go to a bar and then some hot chick is there and she starts talking you up and you start developing a relationship and then over time she offers you $10 million to I need you to take this suitcase. Don't ask me where it came from, what's in it. Just put it on the damn airplane, right? Can you do that? And I'll leave it right here by this area. Whatever, you just pick it up and you put it on all the other suitcase. I mean, that sounds, kind of simplistic, but you get the point. The point is, the weakness in security is always the human beings. All right. And their vulnerabilities are a lot of times it's just greed. It's a lot of times it's just, economically they're destined to need money, and or what, it just so happens that they just happen to recruit the guy that hates America anyways,
Or
that hates people, right?
or he's disgruntled, or he's just like, I don't even fucking care if I die. Like, give it,
Yeah,
not to put him in a good light, but hey, make sure my family gets the money or some shit, or
there you
give him
go.
half now or something. Or it's, yeah, what the fuck do I care if they kill me? Okay, and if I get away with it, this is awesome. And then it's also, I mean, was it Robert Hansen, the most prolific,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Aldrich Ames, and that was like CIA, but Hansen, yeah, the FBI mole, and he was the most prolific and most damaging mole for something like 10 years. He ended up, I think he's dead now, but he ended up in ADX Florence. But when they caught him, the first thing he said is, "What took you so long?" But the second, when they asked him why he was doing it, and everything, he didn't. It wasn't even. I mean, granted, he's a communist faggot and he should be shot in the head. But he didn't even say like, "I hate him." He was making like 50 grand a year, and he was like, "The Soviets were giving me 75."
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like that. That was, and then it's self-preservation. All this stuff what you're saying earlier about like the Louvre and going in and you start looking at, well, there's the profit margin, like how many guys do I have to hire? But then there's also the self-preservation thing. And it's like, do I care if I live? And now if I do, I'm gonna go, I'm not going for that. But if it's something where it's, hey, your family's getting money overseas and they already get half, and you're like, I don't even care. The whole self-preservation thing, that's how you get car bombs. That's how you get 9/11. It's like there are layers of security. What happens when you don't care? What happens
yeah,
when the guy is like, no, 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 no. I'll fly this plane into the fucking building for
yeah,
whatever reason, religion, money.
yeah.
That's the hardest thing I would imagine is to, you know, allegedly tried to shoot Trump. Yeah, I mean, his head gets blown off. But, if you make that calculation and you don't care about, that's a whole other level of getting away with shit. Or do you even want to live?
So the next question people will ask, well, what do we do about it? What do we do? Right. And so that, there's the challenge is what do you do? Um, you could use the philosophy of, you know, see something, say something for everybody, right? So everybody becomes, but then you have the other problem. Then you have every paranoid Karen out there ratting out on everybody about shit that's not even an issue.
Get lost
So,
in the noise, yeah.
yeah, and then they're leveraging that because they got a hard on about something that their neighbor said to them, and I'm going to teach them, right? And so there's that piece of it. And then um, so what do you do about it? Honestly, well, money doesn't always fix everything, but you have to put more money into security. And security now and nobody wants to do that because security
It's
has no
some
ROI.
cost, yeah.
There's no return on this investment, right? It's not like you're making money off security per se. And it costs money to do this thing. But the thing is, sometimes, security in and of itself becomes, it's the insurance, so to speak. Like, for example, going back to the MGM Grand Hotel, right? The shooting there. Um, if I remember the numbers correctly, um, they were sued, MGM was sued for over $750 million because they didn't take all the steps, right? And I don't know what all the steps were, but from what I understand, they did not have canines. Had they invested in a canine program at every entrance, sniffing every bag coming in, they would have known this guy was hauling in ammunition. No, that would have been stopped right on the ground floor. But they didn't do it. Why? Because it costs money, And how much would it cost? I don't know, a couple $1 million a year for sure. But so now they didn't do it, and now they owe $375 million. Like, oh shit, right? And so now their insurance coverage covered something like again, don't quote me on this, somewhere around $680 million. But they had to come up with the rest of that, right? So they lost a lot of money and they could have probably saved themselves a lot of money, and it probably then also they probably lost a lot of clients. Said, I'm not going there. Fucking crazy place, right? These guys, shooters and stuff, right? So then there's a long-term loss as well. And then there's also investor confidence, blah, 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 right? So it always costs money. And and this is why, I always make the argument you should invest the money because maybe nothing happens. And the reason it didn't happen is because you actually had good security, right? And so how do you don't know, right? But what we do know is places that don't have security or adequate security, they end up paying like $750 million for not having the security, the adequate security. So, but it always comes down to money. And unfortunately, this is the downside to capitalism is um, everybody wants to make money and they want to make more money and they don't want to spend money and they don't, and they don't want to lose money, but it's greed at the end of the day. It's greed, and then there's the other part of it is fiduciary responsibility to shareholders and
Hmm.
investors, right? And so there's accountability for that. Did you do the best you can? And I'll tell you right now, without again naming any of these, the hotel chains, because again, I'm still in this kind of line of work, but a lot of hotels have foregone security, especially abroad, and or really the adequate amounts of security. They've just foregone it because, like, hey, we can save a little bit extra money, and if we just get rid of that and we just invest a little bit of a difference into insurance, we let insurance pay for shit if it happens. Now, think about the logic behind that. When institutions, companies are saying, well, we're going to default to or defer to the insurance, let that handle it. How do you explain that to a family that has lost their loved ones because they were staying at your hotel or they were at your venue and you decided, we're going to get rid of security. We're just going to buy insurance so if something happens. So you're saying you're willing to let people die and then let the insurance cover, the cost. It's like you put more, you devalue human life and your customers over your own business interests. You put it first, right? So that's pretty irresponsible, and most people don't even know this stuff is happening. I mentioned there in the beginning of the show. I mean, the beginning of this show about the stores, like for example, San Francisco, right? They did not want, they would not allow me to interdict, address anybody committing a crime. Zero. And if I did, I got fired. I would have been fired. In fact, many of my friends got fired. I had SEALs that came in, brought them in, and they got fired almost like on the first day for trying to intervene and stop this bullshit. And they never told you that, oh, we actually want you to let them do it. And it's like, for us, it's like counterintuitive. Why would you want us to let these people steal stuff, smash glass, and even assault customers and employees because they don't want to litigate, all right, and they can make their money back many fold just by giving it to the insurance. Put it on the insurance, let them pay for it. It's a shame, man. It's this horrible shame. That's what's going on, And I have to bite my tongue sometimes because I really want to call out those that I know are doing this. And they're not small little mom and pops outfits. These are major corporations out there. And you know, have no illusion, man. Nobody out there gives a shit about your security. It's all smoke and mirrors. And so you've got to travel through this world and take accountability for your own responsibility for your own security. Stay heads up, make good choices, and and then start looking at these businesses that really are not doing the right thing and avoid them. So you're not getting my business because security, we live in a very rogue and very feral world, man. This is probably one of the most dangerous times in history, to be a civilian. And because we're slaughtering each other, we've got terrorists amongst us, we've got domestic terrorists amongst us. We've got just crazy people, man, that just because they didn't get their way, they lose their mind and grab guns and start killing people. Um, I don't know if there was any time in history where any culture, any country, any society wasn't even remotely close to what we're doing, you know? I mean, and so, so again, going back to, it begs the question, well, what do we do? And those are just some of my ideas, man. Avoid the people that are not doing what they're supposed to do. Take responsibility for their own security. Um, and there's not much else you can do because this requires um, a collective cooperation between government, society, institutions, businesses. We got to work hand in hand to try to stop these assholes, all of them. And then the other problem is technology is moving so fast that the drones to me is the biggest threat right now. That is the threat, and it's growing rapidly. And how do you stop that one? Um, Almost impossible at this point. And so the next thing I predict will happen, um, they're going to try to ban the sale of drones to civilians. I guarantee that's coming. It's coming. Because they're gonna understand that this is a big deal. Um, and then you won't be able to buy drones. But here's the other problem. Okay, now drones is like guns. People will figure out how to make them and
Yeah.
build them,
Yeah.
right? And then there'll be a black market for them, right? Um, I think one of the best ways to do this is you're just going to have to scare the shit out of people. So when you catch somebody breaking a law like that, you kill them.
Yeah.
It's like here, it's man, capital punishment. We are tired of messing around. You rape somebody, you're dead man. You molest a child, you're a dead man. You do this, you're a dead man. There's got to be some severe consequences for people going, I don't know if I want to do that because I'm going to get killed, And
Well,
it's
that's what I was gonna say about like how do you respond to stuff like this where it's unstoppable? And I always come back to, thermonuclear weapons, not the little not the little Hiroshima ones, multiple
yeah.
megatons. You can put 20 of them on a missile. You don't even have to you can drop it from your own backyard. It goes to orbit. It comes back down like a shotgun from hell at Mach 23. There's really nothing to do to stop it. And it's like, well, then how come? Well, because, if Russia does it, we're going to send them back. And if we do it, they're going to send them back. And at some point, the only logical conclusion is deterrent. So when I go, how come there hasn't been like a million thermite drones that fly over Nellis? And it's like, well, number one, I would imagine we then would have our own in China or Russia, and vice versa. It's like whoever's doing it, how sure are you that there is no trace that it's coming back to you? How sure are you of your own counterintelligence? Because you might be able to pull this thing off and cripple Nellis or Fort Bragg or whatever. Is that really worth, you know, 10 B-2 bombers coming and leveling Shanghai and going, was that worth it? So I think a
Yeah.
lot of it comes down to deterrence. So these huge things, why don't they happen? There's a great book called a Wildfire, and it was all about like why hadn't a 9/11 happened up until that point.
Yeah.
And it's a fictional book, but I thought it's great. And it was that the U.S. had spoken with, whatever, the Emirates and Saudi Arabia and all them, and said, if this happens,
Uh,
we're immediately going to nuke, all of your cities and Mecca. And they're like, well, there are terrorists. And they're like, now that is on you. We're not going to stop your terrorist. You stop your terrorist. It'd be like if somebody told me, hey, if any of your guests start, whatever, putting on top hats during your podcast, I'm going to kill you, Tommy. I would immediately be like, all right, well, I'm no more not doing live shows anymore. I'm going to go through each episode because now it's on me. Now I'm going, fuck, I don't want to die. So I think that's probably what it comes down to is one, deterrence, and two, if China goes, well, we can't stop these rogue cells, we go, well, you better, and you can do whatever you want. You can do your whole China thing. If you don't, we're going to nuke you. And we know you'll nuke us, but we'll nuke you. I think a lot of it comes down to capital punishment deterrence, probably at a nation state level. That's
yeah.
why you go, well, how come there's not a car bomb every day in the US? I don't know. It's probably because the House of Saud likes their gold palace and they don't want it vaporized. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
might be that.
I don't know. I think that's on the horizon too. And And
Fuck.
honestly, there is so much stuff that's coming across the borders. Again, you don't hear most of this on the news. You just don't. Why? Because who controls the news, right? It's the Operation Mockingbird in effect again, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna control the narrative. They don't want you to know certain things. But there's things that are happening and have happened for a very long time. And now with, you know, hell, you can make explosives in your kitchen, and the information's out there. How do you think the terrorists figured this out, right? Some dude that was a sheep herder now is making bombs, and blowing things up. And so, um, when there's a will, there's a way. And we've reached this place in, our country where, and I've said this every time I've gotten on this podcast and every podcast, I don't know how we can turn this thing around. I don't think it's even possible at this point. Um, the the lunacy, the insanity, the craziness that people have bought into, um, it makes absolutely no sense. But yeah, so what do you do, right? And that's my best guess is capital punishments. There's got to be. And here's the other thing: people aren't even being held responsible. People are going out raping kids, and 6 months later they're free. Like, how's that working now, right? And you're on a bond. I know you raped this kid, but we're gonna let you on a bond, and we know you won't run away. This is craziness. This was indoctrination. This is inculcation, not overnight either, over time. People have been trained to think a certain way, and 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 the way they have done it, and I say they have done it, is there are powers that have been around for a very long time. They've been in something for the long play, and the best way to recruit people, get people on your side, is appeal to their benevolence, and you be benevolent, but also appeal to their care and love for humanity and doing the right thing. And they've weaponized that, right? So, for example, and I have no problem saying this as a white person, because fuck it, even if I wasn't white, I mean, some of the biggest idiots out in our country are white women, particularly college girls that have bought in this shit. Like, oh my God, it's so wrong to discriminate. Of course it's wrong to discriminate. Who's doing that? The black men. They're always speaking on behalf of the black people. And black people, who the fuck are you
Yeah.
talking on behalf of me, right? Like, you fucking act like I'm a fucking retard. I can't do nothing for myself. And so it's the
Yeah.
white people, that their guilt and their benevolence and their supposed love for humanity and kumbaya. That's what's being exploited, because they don't have no freaking real world experience. They're the perfect fucking
It's suicidal
tactic.
empathy. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, yeah, good term.
No,
So,
it's not my term. I think it's civilizational suicidal empathy, and it's the
yeah,
entire idea of like women are fantastic mothers, fantastic caregivers, but the same, just like when you're a kid, you can kind of push the envelope a little farther with mom than with dad.
yeah, right.
It's the same thing, and it's oh, this is an archaic thought. No, it's not. It's why women are a zillion times better at rearing children and being loving and caring is the same reason why if you wanted to manipulate and do evil shit, you go after women. And if you were on the
Yeah,
external source and you look at America, Fortress America, the oceans, all the military, and you go, here are women, and it's you go, well, let's prey on their, and it's evil, but you're preying on their empathy and their love and their nurturing
that's right.
instincts to you go, look at all the sad poor people on the southern border. And it's like it takes a man to look at that, and you can help where you can, and sure, the Christianity be my brother's keeper, but there is also a point of going, you have to take care of yourself first, and you also have to be able to look at other things and go, those are men manipulating you. And
Yeah.
you know, that's a huge part of it is suicidal empathy. And it's, it's a massive part of it. It's, you have no cause, then you want to go and do something. And sure, you can say it's good intentions, but that truly is always like the vessel to hell. Is good because no one would go to hell. No one would get this. It's what Baz always says. Like pedophiles don't roll up to a school saying I'm a yeah, you come with candy and puppies. Like there's a it there's a reason for it. It's
Right.
so I don't know
Yeah,
how pumped to
I
get
have
on
I
this,
have a
but yeah,
story to
yeah.
kind of support my my assertion. So okay, it's a universal. It doesn't apply to everybody every time, but generally, here it is. So one of my children, one of my girls, I have many daughters, and was going to college. Actually, she was going to UNC Charlotte, and now I raised in a very conservative household. At least I thought I did. And she went there, and of course, the liberal professors got a hold of her. Next, thing you know, she's taking feminism courses and blah blah blah, right? And then and I remember she came home one weekend, and I saw her like patrolling around the kitchen while I was making coffee, and it's like a shark, man. She's ready to strike, and she's got a. And then she's like, "Dad, I got a question for you." I go, sure, what? She goes, what do you think? And this was a long time ago. This was with George Bush. She goes, what do you think about this idea that George Bush wants to put a fence on the border? Now that's funny, right? Even George Bush was talking about putting a fence on the border, right? Building a wall, right? She goes, what do you think about that? I go build it higher and put machine guns on it, right? And she goes, but why, Dad? These people just want to make a better living. They just want to come here and have a good life and a better living. And I tried to explain to her, the impact that has because when they come to our country uninvited, illegally, and they're not paying taxes and they're using our infrastructure, they're using our resources, they're going to our hospitals, they're leeching, they're parasiting off of our society that we have to pay taxes for, and we're supporting these people. I said, I said that's a problem. I said, and when you get older, you'll appreciate that a little bit more. And it didn't make no sense to her, right? It just didn't resonate with her. I said, okay. And so, shit you not, about a week later, I'm in Florida. It's a Saturday night, about 10:30, 11 o'clock. I'm in my car, and it's my daughter's calling me. It's an emergency, right? And she's screaming and hollering on the phone. Ah, Dad, right? She literally just got into a car accident, and she was at the side of the road in her car. I mean, like moments after the crash, she's already calling me, right? And what happened was it was a T intersection. She had the right of way, and there was another car coming up into the T intersection. They had the red light. Okay. According to her, they had the red light. She had the green light. She's doing about 45 miles an hour. They ran the red light. She T-boned them. Okay. Smashed her car up. There were two individuals in it, two Mexicans, could not speak any English. So the crash happens. She's messed up. Her legs are messed up. Everything's messed up, right? And she's in the car and on the phone. Cop comes up. He's like, "Are you okay? Okay?" And and she's screaming. I go, "What happened?" And she's trying to explain what happened because she's just confused. And I'm trying to tell her, "Shut the fuck up. Just shut up. You're
Yeah.
in no condition right now to make a statement, right?" And so she blah 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 blah. So then they go over. And so one of the Mexicans, they hauled him off of the ambulance, and then the other one, they asked him questions, and he refused to answer, and he couldn't speak English, and he had no driver's license, no insurance, and he wouldn't speak English. He wouldn't give a statement, even in Spanish, right? And they played the old no habla shit, and so the police finally, took the report. Everybody, cars, Dar's car was total, and then so then we were talking about it next day, and so I had her on my insurance policy. I had about 9 insurance policies through State Farm, and I hope State Farm's listening to this, you son of a bitches. So what happened, and I've been with them for a very long time, right? And so um, and it seemed like a pretty cut and dry deal, right? So okay, they ran the red light, you T-boned them. Oh yeah, they don't even have a driver's license or insurance. They can't speak English, and they're here illegally. That seems like a slam dunk, right? Okay. Nope. About 6 weeks later, the insurance company calls me and goes, Mr. Comstock, sorry, but we are going to have to settle out of court, and we have basically awarded the other party a bunch of goddamn money, right? Like a lot. And how's that work? They go, well, the fact that they don't have a driver's license, they don't have insurance, they're here illegally. Not even sure it was their car. Doesn't absolve your daughter for running a red light and T-boning them. I go, that's their word against ours. And they go, well, unfortunately, some other guy, some third witness, another Mexican, right, walks out of an auto shop right there by the intersection, looks left, looks right, observes the accident, right? And he now sides with his buddies who just left his shop, okay, because that's where they were. Right now it's three against my daughter. And he goes, there's no way we can that because you've got three witnesses says she ran the red light, right? It's her word against three guys, and it would cost us more money to litigate this, and we're going to lose it anyways. So we're just going to dole out the money. And I
Yeah.
thought, okay. So I said, how does that affect me then? And they go, well, we're going to have to raise your premium. Oh, I would lost my shit, man. I lost my shit. And I said, no, you lost nine fucking premiums for me, you motherfuckers. And so I called my daughter and I told her what happened. And she was like, oh my God, Dad, that's so wrong. That's so wrong. I go, remember that conversation we had about building that goddamn wall, putting machine guns on it? I go, there it is. I said, you get to experience some tough love because you get to pay for your own insurance. I'm not paying for it no more. I'm done. You're on your own. And she goes, but Dad, I go, yeah, I'll go find some fucking illegals to pay your shit for you. Fucking, see how
Mm.
that works. And I thought, man, what a fucking great life lesson. And there it is. People just, you know, they let their hearts get in the fucking way of their common sense, and they don't think it through. They feel this empathy for everybody, you know, and oh, what a cute little snake. Oh, he's got some pretty colors on him, the red, black, and yellow may kill a fellow. He's just and then they get bit. They go, motherfucker, he bit me. But he was so nice and docile. Yeah, it's a coral snake,
Yeah.
and so. The naivety of human beings, man, is so profound. And this is why we're in so much trouble because nobody's thinking anymore. They're thinking with their heart and not with their heads. And that's what's making us so vulnerable because the adversary, the opposition out there, they don't care about you. They don't care about your heart and your empathy. They're just basically exploiting that to their end, to further their goals, man. And that's where we are, you know. So how do you unfuck all that? If we can at least maintain status quo, even though it's not desirable, maybe in time people will start coming back around and we'll tip the scales back to common sense, back to patriotism, back to nationalism. Ain't nothing wrong with that, right? In fact, people act like that's a bad thing to be nationalistic. Well, that's what every other country does. You try coming to where I live abroad in some of these Southeast Asian countries. Yeah, they're very nationalistic. They're very tribal, and you will never be one of them. And they don't give a shit how nice and how much you love them. You'll never be part of them. And so that's the real human condition. This thing that we're all, I saw a post one day. I lit this chick up, man. She mentioned something. She goes, "We need each other." We need each other. I go, there you go. We need each other. No, we don't. I said, "Bitch, I don't need you. Tell me how I need you." Yes, right. I don't need you. You might need me, but I don't need you. No, so the fact that we need each other is bullshit. But there you go. It's that brainwash. We need each other. No, we don't. We do not. And so again, it's the education system has failed our country. It goes all the way back to 2013, not 2013, yeah, 1913, John Rockefeller. When he took over well, he started the General Education Board, right? He funded all this shit and he created the curriculum, decided this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to teach our idiots to be idiots and useful idiots, right? In our world. So nobody's teaching you how to think on your own. Nobody's teaching you, you know, how to live a sovereign life, how to think effectively. There and most of it's just bullshit. Even the school's curriculums are bullshit. Charlie Kirk was right, man. With few exceptions, fucking college is a waste of goddamn time. Take it from a guy with a fucking PhD, master's degrees, business degree. You know, I'm looking back going, fuck, what did I learn? Nothing I couldn't have done on my own and figured out on my own, especially on the internet now, especially with AI, you know? Um, and so there's a lot to be said, but again, the education system has become a capitalist, what's the word I'm looking for, man? Basically a monopoly, man. We got this fucking teachers union that's making bazillions of fucking dollars off the education system. And we're still like ranked 23rd or 24th in the world on education. We're churning out idiots all day long, um, you know, and what did you ever learn in school? I didn't, and I didn't learn anything in high school, particularly that was going to give me life skills, home economics and bullshit like that. But outside of that, did you really teach me how to think and maybe how to start a business? How do I get, an EIN number, for example, and then I do this and then I do that and I can be my own entrepreneur. No, they don't teach you shit like that. They teach you how to be a fucking slave. How to fucking, when the bell rings, line up, and when the bell rings again, fucking walk a straight line into here, right? Fucking, it's very regimented. Um, so all this together, and so when going back to the beginning to the robbery of the Louvre, this is just another, it's just another sign and symptom of, and look, this type of stuff has always been around, right? We've always had thieves. Um, but now it's just, no matter where you look, you know, the fox is running the freaking, the chicken, the hen of houses, they're controlling everything. And we've just kind of like, we're imploding on ourselves. We have no security consciousness, and the security we do have is all superficial bullshit. Make people feel good, but it's actually not effective at all. And they don't want it, by the way, and I say they, I'm talking about people that have the responsibility to ensure security no matter where it is. They're not going to pay to have a real good security guy come in, because a real good security guy like me will come in. I will cost them money because I say that's broke, that doesn't work because of this. You need to put it for that, and blah 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 blah. And it's too much fucking money. They want image over substance, and that's what they're going to pay for. Just give me some image. Don't worry about the substance. I just got to be able to check that box. Say, yeah, what I did, and that's the world we live in. And so, stop depending on other people to protect you, and look out for you, because they're not doing it. It's just they're just trying to make money and cover their ass, not yours. So yeah.
No, it's I don't know. I guess to kind of wrap it up, I do look at it's there are instances of, and I'm much more shaky on ancient history than I am the last century. But I mean, you have the Roman Republic. It starts great, starts decaying, rot,
Yep.
corruption, and a lot of times empires fizzle out and they overextended, whatever, Persian Empire, or, they get overextended, they get way too big and they die, they fizzle out, or they get overrun, the whole barbarians at the gates. But there are instances of where they turn it around, and it comes with, because you hit a point where you come up to the precipice of like, this is falling apart, and it either does fall apart, or, and this is like the kind of opportunity of that point, is when enough people in public are now like, hey, whatever you got to do to fix it, just fucking fix it. Like what Trump's doing now, just with like sending National Guard to cities. I don't think he could do that in his first term, even with like the MAGA support. I think people are like, this is kind of weird. We're at a point now where the average person's like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. I'll literally send like the Marines to I don't give a shit. And with the Roman Republic, right? Turns around, becomes the empire. And then there was 300 years of peace. So it's not even that you save it for the sake of saving it. It led to the like Pax Romana. So sometimes if you fucking whip it back around, it can be saved.
Yeah.
And it's I I'm optimistic that it could happen. I'm not going to say it will happen, but there are instances of where not only
Yeah.
does it turn around, it turns around for the better, and it actually benefits everyone. So I
Well,
think,
it did. It's
yeah,
why America is what it is, right? Because we kind of did that when we broke away from England, right? We
yeah,
just bullshit, enough's enough, and then we came here and said, "Fuck it, let's fight then." Uh, but and I think Trump right now is probably the only guy that can do that.
yeah,
Why? Because he just don't give a shit, right? He's a fucking rebel. He's a rogue. He's not a politician, which is these are all good things. And had he been a politician, we'd be no better off. But
yeah.
because and now it's personal because of what they have tried to do to him.
To
And
him, to
now he
Charlie
learned his,
Kirk, yeah,
yeah, he learned his first lesson from the first time that, oh yeah, these guys are not going to fucking play nice. They're not going to play by the rules ever. And so, and so now this is why you had the stupid, no kings fucking rally bullshit, bunch of fucking monkeys out there, there's no kings, they don't even know what the fucking, they don't even know what fascism is, man, and they try to equate it to Nazi in Germany, which is really was actually socialism,
Nationals, yeah.
nationalism, right? And they don't even know history, but they're out there, pissing and moaning about something they don't understand. But you know, Trump and Trump's not, violating the Constitution. He's not doing anything like that. But he's the one guy though that I think that's just said, okay, I see what's going on here. I'm not going to stand for it. And at least he's got at least one moral bone in his body to do something about it, And he really is our hope. And and I I pray that he survives all this, and then he hands the torch to hopefully JD Vance, and we can continue this. If we can do this for you know another 10 to 12 years, I think we could right the ship. Um,
I think it really can. I do.
yeah, but and this is why they're trying so hard to take this guy out, and they're losing. The left is losing badly, and they know it. They're I mean, it's obviously they're losing badly. They're literally they're trying everything out of desperation to see if they throw some shit at the wall if it'll stick or not. And most Americans are now dialed in on this on what they're doing. So we do have a chance. Trump is it. If Trump and this administration doesn't pull it off, I don't see how it'll get pulled off. I just don't see it, man. And but then there's the outside actors too, right? Like
Yeah.
the Chinese, the Russians, and the Iranian. And it's not even them either, by the way. It's the fucking Europeans. Everybody that's supposed to be our goddamn friends, they're working against us fucking too, right? And that's the funny part, right? And they're actually undermining us as well. They would love to see us. They only need us for protection. Okay, that's it. They just need us to cover their ass so they can continue, like fucking Germans, right? And again, I'll say it because I'm German. I have German family, a lot of it over there. I grew up over there, and the fucking Germans, right? They're getting all this money from fucking NATO, and yet they can't even stand up a goddamn parade army, and they're afraid they can't stand up to Ukraine. It's like, well, what'd you do with the fucking money, right? And how come you didn't do what you're supposed to do? Now you're fucking scared, and you're looking at us and calling for us to fucking shed American blood in your fucking defense you know? And it's the whole European Union is like that. Now, a couple of countries like Poland, they get it. They're like, fuck that, we're not playing this
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
right? But everybody else is in bed together and they've used us, they've manipulated us, they've taken our dollars, and then they expect us to fucking sacrifice our own fucking Americans on their behalf so they can continue on with their grift and their bullshit. And I hope Trump, I wish Trump didn't even fucking agree to go back to NATO. Um, Fuck that. We don't need those son of a bitches. We don't need to be a part of that. And everybody, oh, no, you know what? America will do just fine without the rest of the world. We don't need their bullshit. We we don't. We make our own stuff. Fuck, man, we're the richest nation in the fucking world. And if it was so goddamn bad, we wouldn't have 20 million fucking criminals crossing the border trying to live in our country. Try that anywhere else on the fucking planet. It ain't gonna fucking work for you. So I'm hoping, man. I hope you're right. I hope that this works because look, man, I got kids, I got grandkids. It's not about me anymore. It's about them, and for their sake, I hope this thing gets sorted out and soon. But aside from that, on another on another tangent, even if all that does get sorted out, we still got a problem, and the problem is artificial intelligence, and how fast that shit's moving, and the problems that will come with that. You know, for example, the prediction is within 2, 3 to 4 years, 80 to 90% of the population will be without a fucking job. What do you do with those people? That could be us, right? I don't know. Um, and so then what happens? So now you have an entire society dependent on a government for there won't even be fiat money anymore. It's all going to be credits, right? Fucking everything's gonna be that's where we're going. And so you'll get an allocation of cryptocurrency every month or whatever it's going to be credits every month. And that's why they keep saying in 2030 you'll have nothing and be happy, which is I call bullshit. I wonder if that also includes the elite, the Bilderbergers and all the Rockefellers and Rothschilds and all those assholes. Are they going to be living on the same level with us? No, of course they're not. But so there's gonna be problems that come with that, lots of problems that come with that, and we're gonna be more insecure, And so, but the control they'll have is your bank. They'll track everything you do, where you go, and then they'll punish you by taking away your money, your credits, right, limiting your movement. They're doing it already, in China, you know, and I had a conversation with my friends yesterday about that shit. Imagine, you get through facial recognition, they see you, jaywalk. Okay, boom, it pops up. Oh, you were a jaywalker. We're gonna fine you, I don't know, whatever it's gonna be, 10% of your credits this month, right? For jaywalking. That's your fine. Like fuck, man. And then you do it again. It's like, oh, that's twice now. We're gonna do 20%. And then you fucked up and did it a third time. It's like, oh, now you don't get to go. You get to go to the store, but you only get to buy the essentials. No candy, no cigarettes. They control everything at this point, control your life. That is going to be a really dystopian place to fucking be, and we're fast tracking to it right now. And I think, man, this is why I think we have engineered our own fucking extinction because and it's moving so fast that you how do you reverse that one? How do you reverse that one? You don't, you know, you don't. You know, but my warning shot to those assholes that would like to fucking implement this is there will come a point where the masses will go, that is enough, and we will rise up. We will hunt you down. We will fucking exterminate every one of you motherfuckers, right? And we will reset the clock and start over without your asses. There are consequences. You cannot suppress 8 billion fucking people. I don't give a fuck. You got to be able to enforce that. You got to have the military to do that. And there's going to come a point where you're not going to have that capability. 8 billion people, you won't have an army big enough unless you got an army of 8 billion people to fight back to stop it. So there are consequences, and that's why I keep thinking that how far can we go and how much longer can it go? And I mean, I think we've reached the end of the internet, man. That's what we've done. So
I think one, it's as you'd say 10-meter targets. I think one, it's we'll deal with right now. All right. And, you know, it could be the end, but I also, at every point in human history, it's always been the end. And then there's also things where people go, okay, then there are points in human history where they go, there were a lot of points in history before this where they said it was the end and that was wrong. But this time it really is the end. Then that has happened innumerable times. So, I mean, are we going to make it through it? I have no idea, but I tend to look at it. I don't think anyone can possibly calculate the interactions and motives of 8 billion self-incentivized humans. And sure, the logic is base. It's sex, food, rest, shelter. But I think no one's ever completely usurped it. And we've also somehow managed to get to this point. So, sure, AI, that's a whole new ball game. But I mean, in like the early 1900s, Graf von Zeppelin, when they were flying the Zeppelins and like Germany did like a demonstration and then they also like accidentally flew off course and then went over a couple other countries. Other world leaders are like, this is the fucking end, dude. They got balloons now. You don't even have to march over borders. And people are like, should this technology be destroyed? How are we? And now, if you look back like at Zeppelin, you're like, yeah, that was that fucking retarded shit they did before the biplane. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, that was different. Okay, then biplane. Okay, and then super long range artillery, and then jet engines, and then rockets. And it's sure it could end, but the self-preservation instinct, and the same reason why there hasn't been nuclear Armageddon. It's not because world leaders are, you know, cheery, cozy, lovey people. It's because they don't want to die. So I tend to look at that and go, I'm willing to gamble on it that we'll get through. We might not, but the fact that we are here and alive today talking says we've gotten through every trial. It doesn't mean it's been easy. It means some shit like bubonic plague or, it's like, sometimes it gets fucking hairy, ice ages and like, but yeah, no, I think we'll somehow come across this and there's going to be alternatives and shit because, as AI poses a new threat, there's also new alternatives that come from AI. So it's like, the
Yeah.
internet, anyone can say anything. The government's going to take control of it. It's like, well, now there's also shit like where I'm just in an apartment. I'm not part of Fox News and, have to work through this. It's like I'm just here, yelling into a microphone and uploading it to Rumble and YouTube for free. And I reached 500,000 people a month. And it's like, well, how did I meet Dale? I don't know. I messaged him on Instagram. It's like these things were also made possible by the very tool, the internet, that was supposed to fucking kill us all. So, I think by virtue of the fact that we exist, I would have to say I think we'll get through it. We might not, but I don't know. I think
I
we
think
will.
there'll be a lot of pain, man, and I think there will be
Sure.
a lot of loss, a lot of pain. Um, and but the thing is, we have really the lethality that we have now is
Oh,
unprecedented.
it's disproportional. It's not
Yeah.
swords and sailboats from the
And you made a
Queen.
point,
It's yeah.
you made a point about self-preservation. Well, there's those on top. That's all they're thinking about is their own self-preservation. And if it means extinguishing a whole lot of
That's
fucking
the other side.
population, right?
That's the other side. Yeah. It's
And they have the power, okay? And so,
yeah.
they would they've already proven they're willing to wield that.
Yeah.
COVID's a great example of it. They're willing to wield that to ensure um, their own survival at our expense. Do you actually think anybody gives a fuck? The pharmaceutical companies have no fucking interest in fucking saving human beings, man. They just want you to live long, so they keep putting fucking drugs in you and making fucking money. So the guys on top are making, they're surviving. Um, the food companies, they're all doing the same shit, right? Under the guise of trying to help humanity. And, like you just said, suicidal empathy, we want to help everybody, we're going to do our part to help you. When in fact, we're actually slowly fucking killing you and poisoning you, for our own goddamn greed and grift. And that's the human condition. Everybody always asks it, can we just all get along, and everybody thinks there's this utopia out there that we can reach. And the reality is, since the time, the dawn of man, we've had over 12,000 fucking wars. And do you really think we're a fucking, do you really think we're peaceful? I can't remember who it was. It was Gustav Le Bon. I think it was somebody else. He said, man is the warring ape. And we really are.
Yeah.
We will always be doing this shit. And why do we want it? Because we want what? Three fucking things: power, pussy, and fucking money.
Uh,
Those are our fucking drivers, man. And we will all fucking destroy each other for that, for power, for money, and they go hand in hand. You got one, you got the other, and pussy. What does pussy mean? Procreation. We want to procreate our own kind. And that's why there's this tribalism. We are never going to get along. We're never going to get along. We're never going to get along with extremist Muslims. Not saying we can't get along with Muslims because we do. We can. I do. I do. I'm married to one. But when we talk about extremism, there's never going to be compatibility. And Muslims are outrunning us. It's the birth rate. It won't be long. And they're right now the largest religion in the world. But it's not even just Muslims. It's other cultures. For example, the Chinese. The Chinese. They're very ethnocentric, man. They don't think like we do, like, oh, we all love everybody, They're like, fuck you, you're not a Chinese, you're fucking less than us. I lived in Hong Kong for a while and I fucking witnessed that. When so and that's just our nature, man. It's you're not gonna change our fucking nature. That doesn't mean that on an individual basis we're all racist and hate each other, but as a collective, especially these large, companies, for example. Um, countries they are very tribal and tribalism in a lot of ways these tribes have created their own cultures. These cultures as what has kept these these um these races and these groups together and integral and allowed them to continue to thrive and procreate. It's when you start mixing cultures, you start mixing I don't want to say race, but we start mixing cultures particularly and belief systems and religion. That's where the conflict comes. Think about damn near every fucking war has been started because of some kind of has some kind of religious basis to it, you know? How many people have died in the name of fucking religion? And whose religion? You know? Goddamn, man. That's why we'll never get along. We'll never get along. And maybe that's why, nobody wants us to know that we've got aliens, you know? Why? Because that would really up into religion, all religions. Like, so you really think there's really not a God? And so we're all the same. We should probably all stick together and fight the fucking aliens, you know? Yeah, because people use that kind of discord, the religious discord, to keep control, and make money off of it.
I heard I heard a quote last night from Terrence McKenna. He's a philosopher, psychedelic researcher guy, died in 2000. Uh, I've listened to all of his lectures, but I heard a quote from him I hadn't heard before, and he's talking about like he goes, yeah, he goes, I don't think he goes the launching point of humanity into the star. I don't forget the exact quote, but he goes, the launching point for humanity to go to the stars is not a calm and orderly operation. It's not middle school where you're doing the fire drill. He goes, it looks like the fucking end. And I don't know. I try to look at that as like an optimistic, like it wasn't a calm and orderly, like we're gonna go to the new world. It was people are like, fuck the king. We're gonna get on this boat. We'll probably die if we get over there. And then you get over here. It's like, all right, now there's these Indians. We gotta kill all them. And it's like we gotta tame the wilderness. And now we gotta fucking fight the queen. And it's like it's not a tame and orderly process, but it's the impetus for change. And it could
Yeah.
be that that's what we're looking at. And
Hey,
you run the simulation a trillion times. You might go to every alien civilization. They probably have their own Cuban Missile Crisis type thing. They probably not all of them survive. They probably have their own COVID or bubonic plague thing, and not all of them survive. And they go, yeah. And then if you get to the stars, they go, yeah, no, that's like the scariest part because everyone's just going crazy and shooting antimatter rockets to different planets. But I think you might look at this and go, this is actually the norm. It's like when you look back and you go, oh, I wasn't a weird teenager. That's just what the teenage years are.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but Dale, we gotta wrap this up right now.
All right,
I
bro.
gotta bounce.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for your time, guys. Please go to the description. Please go grab all the stuff. Go buy the books, all that good stuff. I will text you this when it's up. And as always, man, thank you for your time.
All right. Take care,
All right,
brother.
appreciate it.